When you look at a national championship winning roster, there's about 3 to 5 players that you can identify on that roster that were key players and key contributors in order for that team to get to that point. And that's what I've done here in today's video. I'm going to identify 5 Michigan players that I think are key players, impact players that can make a difference on this roster and really could be the difference between succeeding and failing this season. Real quick, before we get to the 5 players that I've identified, if you guys enjoy Michigan football content or college football content in general, please subscribe and like the video. And it's something that I do want to continue doing here on the channel. I do have 3 honorable mentions before we get to the top 5, with the first one being linebacker Jimmy Rolder. I think it's important that you have depth at the linebacker position. Obviously, you're going to have Ernest Hausman along with Rayshaun Benny, but if Jimmy Rolder can rotate in and get some snaps, I think that would be very key for this team's success. The second player I've identified as an honorable mention is going to be tight end Marlon Klein. The reason being, you're moving on from Colston Loveland, who was your best offensive player from a season ago. So you have to replace him at the tight end position. How do you do it? Can Marlon Klein fill in? You don't have to be Colston Loveland, but can you at least produce and be an impact player on this offense? And then the final honorable mention is going to be the entire offensive line. When I look back to the 2021, 2022, and 2023 seasons that Michigan had, they were able to dominate games with their offensive line. I look back to that 2023 game where Michigan ran the ball the entire second half against Penn State and was able to run out of there with a victory. That's just pure dominance on the offensive line, and that's why I consider them an honorable mention as far as a key player, because the offense will succeed if the offensive line succeeds. The first of the 5 players that I will consider a key player is going to be transfer wide receiver Donovan McCauley. He comes over from Indiana. He only played in a couple of games last season before deciding to enter the transfer portal, and he stuck with Michigan. In his junior season, he appeared in 12 games, 11 starts at wide receiver. He caught 48 passes for 644 yards and 6 touchdowns. Funny enough, he did actually start his career at Indiana as a quarterback and has thrown a touchdown against Michigan. He has had honorable mentions in all Big Ten honors in the past, and I think this is somebody that Sherrone Moore is looking forward to having out there at receiver. We've talked about in a previous video about how Sherrone Moore wants these big body receivers, and that's exactly what Donovan McCauley is. He stands in at 6'5", 200 pounds. He's been given the number 1 jersey. I think McCauley is going to be somebody that's an instant impact. Obviously, a graduate student, so you only really get him for 1 season. But I think he's what last year's team was missing, other than a quarterback, obviously. And he's a receiver that's going to go up and get the ball. He's experienced, and really he could have been a really good receiver on that last year's Indiana team if Coach Kirk Cignetti didn't bring a bunch of guys from James Madison in. I think that this player and Donovan McCauley is going to be dominant if he's given the opportunity. Hopping over to the defensive side of the ball now, let's talk about Gierre Hill. The junior corner, 6'2", 185 pounds. Early on last season, he did struggle a lot, but it was that game against Minnesota in which I thought he played extremely well. Got an interception in that game, but because of personal issues, whatever the case may have been, Gierre Hill didn't really get the snaps late in the season. But heading into this year in 2025, he is considered one of the best corners in college football, one of the highest upside defensive backs in the upcoming draft. You need to replace a guy like Will Johnson, who could literally erase half of a football field. And how do you replace him? You replace him with Gierre Hill, and I think that he's going to fill in nicely in this spot. I think the difference is going to be, can Hill mature as a player? If he's able to do that, I think he's a lockdown guy, and you see no fall off from Will Johnson to Gierre Hill. And speaking of huge shoes to fill, that's Rayshaun Benny, the senior defensive lineman, 6'4", 296 pounds from Detroit, Michigan. And he's got the number 55 number, so he's taking over for Mason Graham with that number. And I think that it's huge shoes to fill. You also have Mason Graham, who moved on, but also Kenneth Grant. So when you've only had 2.5 sacks throughout your entire career, you have to really step it up. He played a lot last season. He played a lot in 2023, and he was really needed last year because the depth on the defensive line wasn't that strong to begin this season. And something that's really going to help Rayshaun Benny is the fact that we were able to bring in some transfers on the defensive line as well. So the rotation is going to be there this season. He's not going to be expected to do what Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant did last year, which was stay on the field for a bunch of snaps. Rayshaun Benny can get out there for 60% of the snaps. He stays fresh, and I think that allows him to have a huge senior season and even potentially get himself drafted in the first couple of rounds in next year's draft. The fourth player we're going to talk about is somebody that I probably wouldn't have needed to identify had he not gotten hurt going into last season, and that's safety Rod Moore. He's a senior, unfortunately missed last year with a meniscus and ACL injury, but he should be healthy for this 2025 year, expected to be back by the end of July, so that is very crucial. And the reason that I've identified him as a key player is because we don't know how he's actually going to perform, seeing as how he has missed some time. He's a two-time All-Big Ten selection in 2023 and 2022. He was voted a captain last year, and he has started 28 games in his career. He's also got 6 career interceptions. Of course, the huge pick in the Ohio State game in 2023 that sealed the deal, and it's going to be very good to have Rod Moore back and healthy for this upcoming season. Like I was saying, we don't know if he's going to be the same player that he was in 2022 and 2023, but you can expect him to get kind of back to that level. Rod Moore is a hard worker. He's somebody that loves to be at Michigan, and I think that if he can recover from his injury, if it doesn't hinder his ability to play at all, he's going to be an impact player and more than likely the heart and soul of that defense. And lastly, you know we had to talk about him. It is Bryce Underwood, the true freshman quarterback from Belleville High School in Detroit, Michigan. He was the consensus #1 high school player in the nation. The only question is, does he start week 1 for Michigan? That is kind of what I'm expecting, but at the same time, you could see Mikey Keene get the start in week 1, but I do expect Bryce Underwood to eventually lead this team and actually be the starting quarterback at some point in this season. If he's able to even just be a game manager, I think that Michigan's going to have a better team this year than they did last year, probably by 3 times. You know, I look at a team like Nebraska and what they did with Dylan Raiola last year as he was a true freshman. They gave him the keys, and he didn't play bad, but I don't even think he's on the level of what Bryce Underwood is. We've seen how much development Bryce Underwood has gone through already before even playing a snap in the maize and blue uniform, other than the spring game, of course. We've seen the body transformation. We know he's got elite arm strength. Sherrone Morris said that his ability to process the playbook is increasing and getting better week by week. If Bryce Underwood can learn this playbook, if he can gain the confidence that he needs to go into a huddle and look at these guys and call plays and lead the team down the field, if he can do that, then the other 4 players do their job as well that I mentioned. This is a team that's going to go back to the college football playoff this year. Obviously, it's going to be tough to win the Big Ten because you lose 1 game, and that could blow your chances at making it to the championship game. You have an Oregon and Penn State team that are going to be really solid, an Ohio State team that's also going to be really good. But if you can get good quarterback play out of Bryce Underwood, then I think you're looking to head back to the college football playoff. And those are the 5 guys that I've identified as key pieces. They are impact players. If the team is going to do well, these 5 players are going to have to do well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I want to continue to do Michigan football content. That is going to be the focus of the channel moving forward. I'd love to do an offensive and defensive breakdown before the season starts, as I really have enjoyed making these videos, and I love seeing the support on each and every video that I make. I never thought that this would be the route that I would go in my YouTube channel, but the support that you guys have shown is really, really grateful, and I couldn't be happier. So if you guys do enjoy it, like I said, subscribe and like the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.